Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, April 27. L.R. Solomon Thomas of Stanford poses with Commissioner of the National Football League Roger Goodell after being picked. Photo by Jeff Zelevansky, Getty Images. There's a good chance the San Francisco 49ers stay put with the No. 2 overall pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, selecting either Ohio State edge Nick Bosa, Alabama defensive tackle Quinnen Williams or some other collegiate prospect worthy of being the second player taken off the boards this April. Armed with only 6 picks in the draft so far, however, there's also a good chance general manager John Lynch executes some sort of draft day trade to acquire more capital. It isn't as if the Niners only have a handful of spots to fill on their 2019 roster. San Francisco benefits from a number of unique situations. For starters, there's already a precedent the 49ers have for executing such deals. In 2017, Lynch's first year as general manager, the Niners traded down from No. 2 overall in a deal with the Chicago Bears, netting San Francisco Chicago's first pick No. 3 overall, as well as 2 third-round picks and a 4th-rounder. The Bears ended up with quarterback Mitchell Trubisky, while the 49ers got the player they wanted, defensive end Solomon Thomas. Speaking of quarterbacks, this year's crop of prospective signal callers is awfully thin. And there are more quarterback-needy teams this offseason than day one starters available. Teams like the Oakland Raiders, New York Giants, Jacksonville Jaguars, Denver Broncos and Miami Dolphins could all be in the market for a quarterback in round 1. The 49ers, meanwhile, don't have a need for a quarterback. And quarterback values always seem to rise leading up to draft day. So, if Lynch ends up trading down from No. 2 overall, don't be overly shocked if one of the 3 scenarios pans out in one way or another. Next, scenario No. 3 49ers trade with Jaguars. Page 2 HOUSTON TX December 28. Team General Manager David Caldwell L. chats with Shahid Khan, the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, on the field before their game against the Houston Texans at NRG Stadium on December 28, 2014 in Houston, Texas. Photo by Scott Halloran, Getty Images. It's going to take a considerable lump just to move up a few spots in the NFL Draft this spring. And one of the teams on the trade-up watch list is the Jaguars, who are going to try replacing the underachieving quarterback, Blake Bortles, this offseason. Both the Giants and the Raiders could be looking at quarterbacks with their first pick, meaning Jacksonville would have to jump over both teams, looking at a potential spot the 49ers currently have as a possible landing spot. Currently, the Jaguars own 6 picks in this year's draft. Fortunately, or so we might be inclined to believe, their 2018 woes were more a sign of bad quarterbacking than a completely terrible roster. So Jacksonville shouldn't be too hesitant to move on from its own draft capital for the next year or so. A sign returning to the AFC Championship game, after making it there early in 2018, is in the team's immediate future. According to Pro Football Talk's NFL Draft Pick Trade Value chart, the Jaguars' first and second round picks in 2019 aren't enough to seal the deal. But if Jacksonville throws in an additional 2020 round 2 pick, that could be enough to convince the 49ers to bite. While not listed in the above scenario, San Francisco could ask for one of the 2 third-round selections the Jaguars have in 2019 to ensure the Niners are getting the best offer possible. Next, scenario No. 2 49ers trade with Jaguars. Page 3 ENGLEWOOD CO, January 20. John Elway, Executive Vice President of Football Operations, General Manager for the Denver Broncos, addresses the media during a press conference to introduce Gary Kubiak as the new head coach at Dove Valley on January 20, 2015 in Englewood, Colorado. Kubiak was named the 15th head coach in Broncos history after spending last season as the Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator. Photo by Justin Edmonds, Getty Images. A little more detailed of a trade move here. John Lynch and Broncos general manager Jen Elway already have a working rapport, and it would be a shock to no one if the 49ers and Broncos somehow managed yet another draft day trade. Don't call it a favor, but the terms may be a bit more manageable for both sides. Denver would have to leap up over the Giants, Jaguars and possibly the Raiders. AFC West rivalries stay put in the offseason, after all, to land its top choice. According to predominantly Orange's Sayer Bettinger, that quarterback would be Oklahoma's Kyler Murray. Murray's stock could easily rise above other top college quarterbacks, let's say Ohio State's Dwayne Haskins or Missouri's Drew Lock. A lot of that would depend on performances at the 2019 NFL Scouting Combine, but it isn't out of the question. Especially if there's a bidding war between the aforementioned pro teams. This could drive the price tag of San Francisco's top pick upwards, potentially requiring 2 first-round draft picks from Denver in the process. Additionally, the Niners wind up grabbing the Broncos' own third-rounder, while swapping spots in Round 7. The Broncos, armed with 11 total picks in the 2019 draft, have more than enough capital to be aggressive. And if Elway thinks his team isn't too far away from re-emerging as a legitimate playoff contender, he can afford to use some of those picks in a lucrative deal benefiting San Francisco. Next, Scenario No. 1 49ers trade with Giants. Page 4 Santa Clara, CA, in November 12. Odell Beckham. Photo by Ezra Shaw. Getty Images. It's possible to look at that draft value trade chart all day and come up with a million different scenarios between the 49ers and any number of other teams. But what if such a trade involved a player? The Giants will be looking to find an heir apparent for veteran quarterback Eli Manning. And while being arguably the first team on the board in need of a quarterback, depending on what the Raiders do at No. 4, lessens the likelihood of a lucrative trade-up. All the 49ers would have to do is spread some speculation their first draft pick is a hotly pursued commodity. If the New York Jets, No. 3 overall, did the same, it would only serve the Niners' interests more. Like the Broncos, the G-men have a swarm of picks heading into this year's draft, 9 in total, including No. 6 overall. The 49ers, meanwhile, could ask for 2 first-round selections. Or they could ask for a first-round talent, wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. There's already enough buzz to suggest a Beckham to Niners deal could happen. Such a move would negate San Francisco asking for 2 first-rounders. Especially when one considers no 49ers wide receiver finished with more than 500 receiving yards in 2018, but Beckham, who has spent a good chunk of the last 2 years injured, might at least force the Niners to ask for a smidge more, which dictates the additional 6th-round pick from the Giants. Next, 5 players the 49ers must watch at 2019 NFL Scouting Combine. Meanwhile, the 49ers still have a top 10 selection, while adding a 3-time Pro Bowl wide receiver, who's only 26 years old. And they won't have to worry anywhere near as much about upgrading this underperforming position the rest of the NFL draft. That draft kicks off on Thursday, April 25 from Nashville, Tennessee.